Remember last year's amazing trip? That cute first birthday party? All those photos, all those memories can be freed from your phone with a Shutterfly photo book. Rediscover and share your favorite moments with those you love. You'll be amazed how easy it is to make a photo book with Shutterfly and enjoy it for years to come. Get 40% off orders over $29 with code POD40 at Shutterfly.com and make something that means something.
This episode is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian makes the team collaboration software that powers enterprise businesses around the world, including over 80% of the Fortune 500. With Atlassian's AI-powered software like Jira, Confluence, and Loom, you'll have more time to do the work that matters. In fact, Atlassian customers experience a 25% reduction in project duration per year. Unleash the potential of your team at Atlassian.com. Atlassian.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're going to be diving into a topic that I think a lot of people have probably encountered at some point in their careers. Counteroffers.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You're thinking about leaving your job. Maybe you've even gone so far as to accept another offer, and suddenly your current company is like, wait, no, don't go. We love you. Here's more money. Here's a promotion. Stay. It's tempting, right?
It is. It's very tempting.
So we've been doing some digging, talking to career experts, looking at the data, trying to figure out what's the best way to navigate these situations. Because it can be tricky.
It can be.
It can be really tricky. So what are we seeing in terms of like the overall trends? I mean...
Well, the statistics on this are pretty wild.
Okay.
A lot of people who accept counteroffers don't actually end up staying long term.
Really?
Yeah. Studies show that something like 80% of those who accept a counteroffer end up leaving the company within 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And then within a year,
oh, gosh,
that number jumps to 93%.
That is wild. That's a huge red flag. So it seems like on the surface, a counteroffer seems like a win-win.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're getting more money, maybe a promotion. You don't have to deal with the hassle of, starting at a new company, but clearly something else is going on. So what's driving that trend? Why are so many people leaving even after they get?
Right. Well, you have to think about it from the company's perspective for a second.
Okay.
Often, a counteroffer is a knee-jerk reaction to losing a valuable employee.
Right.
It's like they're caught off guard. They haven't necessarily been paying attention to how you're feeling, what your needs are, and suddenly they're faced with the prospect of you walking out the door.
Okay.
And they're like, wait, what can we do to stop this?
So it's like a throw money at the problem kind of thing.
Yeah, sometimes it can feel that way.
And I guess it makes you wonder, like, if they valued you so much, why didn't they show it before you had one foot out the door?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it leads to this whole other layer.
Okay.
The psychology of counteroffers.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they can be a bit manipulative.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like they might dangle a promotion.
Yeah.
That, let's be honest, they were probably going to give you anyway.
Right.
Just not right this second.
So they're kind of like speeding up their timeline.
Yeah.
Just enough to make you question your decision.
Exactly. Or they might appeal to, your loyalty to the company, your history there, trying to make you feel like you're obligated to stay because of all that you've built together. But it's important, like you said, to really take a step back from the emotions of it and just think, okay, is this really a win for me?
Or am I settling for something that's not actually what I want?
Just because it's comfortable, just because it's familiar.
Yeah.
It's
about looking beyond the surface, right? Getting to the heart of what you really want in your career and your life.
Absolutely. Now, I don't want to say that all counteroffers are bad. There are definitely some situations where accepting one might actually work out in your favor.
Okay, let's hear about those. When might it actually make sense to say yes to a counteroffer?
Well, imagine this. You weren't even really looking for a new job.
Okay.
But this amazing opportunity just kind of fell into your lap. And your current company, they get wind of it and they come to you and they're like, look, we know you might be tempted and we want to make sure that
you stay,
that you're happy. So here are some things we're willing to do.
Oh, so they're being proactive.
Exactly.
They're not just reacting to your potential departure.
Right.
They're actually recognizing your value.
Right. And they're showing it.
Before you have to spell it out for them.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's one scenario where it might make sense. What else?
Another one would be if they offer you a significant promotion And I don't just mean like a lateral move with a slightly fancier title and a little bit more money. This needs to be a real step up.
Okay.
A change in responsibilities, reporting structure, something that actually aligns with your long-term career goals.
So it's like a genuine investment in your growth and development at the company, not just a reaction to you potentially leaving.
Exactly. It should be a clear sign that they see you as a valuable asset.
Yeah.
And they want to invest in your future with them.
If they're truly serious about keeping you, they need to back it up with action.
Yes. Exactly.
Not just words. Okay, so we've got proactive appreciation and significant promotion. Are there any other situations where accepting a counteroffer might be a good move?
One more I can think of. Let's say they offer you a leadership role.
Okay.
In some big long-term initiative. They're making you indispensable to their future success.
Okay.
They're saying, look, we can't do this without you.
You're that important to us.
You're key to our vision.
That's pretty compelling. So in those cases, it sounds like the counteroffer is more than just a reaction. It's a genuine recognition of your value and a commitment to your future at the company.
And a sign that they see you as a partner in their success.
But even in those seemingly ideal scenarios, there are still some potential risks to be aware of.
Definitely.
Right. So let's talk about those. What are some things listeners should keep in mind before they say yes to a counteroffer? What are the potential downsides?
Well, one of the biggest risks is damage to your reputation within the company. Even if you end up staying, you've signaled that you were willing to leave.
Right. So they might see you as a flight risk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can have consequences down the road.
How so?
Well, for one thing, it could impact future promotion opportunities.
Oh.
Some employers might think, well, they were almost out the door once. What's to stop them from doing it again?
Can we really trust them?
To be fully committed.
Right.
And that lack of trust can be hard to overcome. You might find yourself excluded from key projects, passed over for leadership roles, simply because they're not sure if you're going to stick around.
So even if you get a raise and a new title, the underlying dynamics might have shifted in a way.
Exactly. That's hard to repair.
And then there's the financial risk. Let's say the company hits a rough patch.
Yeah.
They need to make some cutbacks. Who do you think is going to be at the top of the list for layoffs?
The person who already tried to leave once is now making more money.
It's a harsh reality.
Yeah.
But it's something to consider.
It's like accepting a counteroffer puts a target on your back.
In a way, yeah. But let's not forget why a lot of these counteroffer situations happen in the first place.
Okay.
It's often because the employee is feeling undervalued. They start looking around.
And they realize, hey, I'm worth more than they're giving me.
It's like they've been playing a game without knowing the rules, and then suddenly they discover a whole new playbook.
They see what's possible, and it changes their perspective.
Once you have that knowledge, it's hard to just ignore it. Right?
Absolutely. That awareness can be really empowering.
Okay.
But it can also create tension in your current role. Even if you stay, there's that lingering doubt, that loss of trust.
So how do you navigate that? You've tested the waters, you know your worth, but you're also weighing the risks of staying. What's the best way to approach that decision?
I think it's helpful to go back to those statistics we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Remember, 80% of people who accept counteroffers end up leaving within 6 months. Why is that?
Because the underlying issues that led them to look for another job in the first place haven't really been addressed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a toxic boss, a stifling company culture, lack of growth opportunities. Those things don't usually magically change just because you got a raise.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You're covering up the problem, but you're not actually fixing it.
And another interesting thing is that research shows that money isn't always the main motivator for people leaving their jobs.
So it's not all about chasing the bigger paycheck.
Not necessarily. It's often a combination of factors.
Like what?
Work-life balance, challenging work, feeling valued, having a supportive environment, opportunities for growth and development.
So if money isn't always the driving force, what should people be focusing on when they're considering a counteroffer?
Well, they need to ask themselves some tough questions like, what will actually change if I stay?
Yeah.
Will my boss suddenly become a supportive mentor?
Right.
Will the company culture magically transform into something more positive and inclusive?
Because if the answer is no, then that counteroffer starts to lose its appeal.
Exactly.
And you also have to remember, you now know your worth in the job market. You've seen what other companies are willing to offer. So the question is, will your current employer recognize and respect that going forward? Or will they just revert to their old ways once the dust settles?
That's a gamble, that's for sure.
And even if they match or exceed the other offer, it's not just about the numbers, right?
Absolutely. It's about feeling valued, respected, empowered to grow in your career. And if you don't have that foundation, even the most generous counteroffer might not be enough.
It's like staying in a relationship that's no longer working just because they promise to do the dishes more often.
That's a great analogy.
It might be a temporary fix, but it doesn't address the deeper issues.
Exactly. And let's not forget the potential impact on your professional reputation.
Right.
Accepting a counteroffer can sometimes make you look like a bit of a flight risk.
Okay, so how does that play out?
Well, once you've signaled your intention to leave, some employers might question your loyalty, your commitment, even if you end up staying.
So future promotion opportunities could be affected.
It's possible. Some companies might hesitate to give you more responsibility or trust you with important projects.
So it's like they're thinking, well, they were almost out the door. What's to stop them from doing it again?
Exactly.
That's going to be frustrating, especially if you genuinely wanted to stay but just felt undervalued before the counteroffer came along.
It can be a tough situation to navigate.
And then there's the added risk that if the company needs to make cutbacks, you might be seen as more expendable.
Exactly.
Because you already tried to leave once.
It's almost like you're punished for knowing your worth.
So even if you manage to negotiate a great counteroffer, there's still this risk that it might not lead to the long-term satisfaction you're seeking.
Exactly. You have to weigh the short-term gains against the potential long-term consequences.
Okay, so we've talked about all the reasons why accepting a counteroffer can be risky, but let's flip the script for a moment. When might it actually make sense to consider staying? When could a counteroffer actually be a good thing?
Well, as we touched upon earlier, there are a few specific scenarios where accepting a counteroffer could be a viable option.
Let's hear them.
First, remember that situation where you weren't actively looking for a new job, but this amazing opportunity just kind of landed in your lap?
Right.
And your current company, they recognize that, and they offer you something concrete to address any concerns you might have.
Okay, so they're being proactive. They're not just reacting to your potential departure. They're showing you that they value you before you even have to say anything.
Exactly. That's a strong sign that they're invested in your growth and they want you to stay.
So it's not about them panicking to keep you. It's about them recognizing your worth and being willing to step up to meet your needs. Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Another scenario is if they offer you a substantial promotion. Again, I don't mean a lateral move. This needs to be a real step up, a significant increase in responsibility, something that truly aligns with your long-term career aspirations.
So it's like they're not just trying to keep you in any role. They're actually offering you a path to reach your full potential at the company.
They're saying, we see your talent and we want to help you grow.
Okay, that's a good one. What's the third scenario?
Let's say they offer you a leadership position in a major long-term initiative. They're making you an integral part of their future success.
So they're basically saying, we can't do this without you. Exactly. Okay, so in all of those cases, the counteroffer is more than just a reaction to you potentially leaving. It's a sign that they truly value you and they're willing to invest in your future.
I think so. It's a sign of partnership.
But even in those situations, it's still crucial to proceed with caution.
Yes, absolutely.
You
need to carefully evaluate the offer, consider the potential downsides, and most importantly, trust your gut.
Because ultimately, it's your career and your happiness that are on the line.
And speaking of happiness, let's talk about the other side of the equation, the new job offer.
Oh, right. Because sometimes that shiny new job might not be all it's cracked up to be.
Exactly. It's important to remember that the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
So how do you avoid jumping from the frying pan into the fire?
Well, due diligence is key. Research the company.
Okay.
Talk to people who work there. Ask tough questions.
Okay.
About the culture, the workload, the opportunities for growth.
Don't be afraid to really dig deep and look for any red flags.
Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is.
Yeah, because starting a new job only to realize it's not a good fit,
Right.
It can be a major setback.
Absolutely.
So it's a gamble either way.
There's always an element of risk.
Whether you stay or you go.
Exactly.
So what's the best way to make that decision?
Well, you need to weigh your options carefully. Think about your long-term goals.
Right.
And most importantly, make a decision that feels right for you.
Not just financially, but emotionally and professionally as well.
Exactly. It's about finding the right fit for your values, your goals, your overall well-being.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, talking about the risks and rewards of counteroffers and the importance of really thinking through your options.
Before making a decision. But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something you said earlier.
Okay.
About, testing the waters and knowing your worth.
Yes. What about it?
Well, it seems like a lot of these counteroffer situations arise because people are feeling undervalued in their current roles.
Right.
And they only discover their true market value when they start looking elsewhere.
That's a great point.
So what if instead of waiting for a counteroffer, you proactively communicated your career aspiration and your concerns with your current employer?
So instead of playing the leaving card, you're suggesting that people take a more direct approach.
Exactly. Have open and honest conversations with your manager about your goals, your expectations, any areas where you feel like you're not being fully utilized or compensated fairly.
That takes courage though, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Not everyone feels comfortable having those kinds of conversations.
Especially if they're worried about the repercussions.
Exactly.
But think about it this way. If your employer truly values you, they'll want to keep you happy and engaged. They'll want to see you succeed. And if they're not receptive to those conversations, that might be a red flag in itself.
It could be a sign that your values and goals aren't aligned with theirs.
And in that case, it might be time to consider other options, regardless of whether a counteroffer is on the table.
Exactly.
So it's about taking control of your career destiny, being proactive rather than reactive.
And who knows, those conversations might just lead to the growth and fulfillment you're seeking without ever having to threaten to leave.
No, that's a win-win.
That's the ideal scenario.
So instead of viewing a counteroffer as a simple yes or no decision, see it as an opportunity for reflection, growth, and maybe even a chance to reshape your current role into something that truly fulfills you.
That's a great way to look at it.
And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Absolutely. Every situation is unique.
But by carefully considering your options and prioritizing your long-term goals, you can make the best decision for your career journey.
Exactly. You're in control.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today and given our listeners plenty to think about when it comes to navigating the tricky world of counteroffers. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll be back next time with more insights and advice to help you navigate your career journey.
See you then.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
It's like they almost penalize you for knowing your worth.
Yeah, it's a weird dynamic. But I think it's important to remember, why a lot of these counteroffer situations happen in the first place.
Okay.
It often boils down to the employee feels undervalued, right? They're not feeling appreciated. They're not feeling like they're being compensated fairly. So they start looking around, exploring their options. And suddenly they realize, oh, wow, I'm actually worth a lot more to what I'm currently getting.
So it's like they've been playing this game without knowing all the rules.
Exactly.
And then suddenly they're like, oh, wait a minute, there's a whole other playbook out there.
There's a whole other world of possibilities.
Right.
And that can be a really eye-opening experience.
And once you have that knowledge, once you know your worth, it's hard to just ignore it and go back to the status quo.
Absolutely.
So how do you navigate that? You've tested the waters. You've realized you're worth more, but you're also trying to weigh the risks versus going.
It's a tough spot to be in.
It is. So what's your advice? How do you approach that decision?
Well, I think it's helpful to go back to those statistics we talked about. Remember,
Yeah.
80% of people who accept counteroffers end up leaving within 6 months.
Right.
And within a year, it's 93%.
So why do you think that is? Why are so many people leaving?
Well, because often the underlying issues that led them to look for another job in the first place,
Right.
those haven't actually been addressed.
It's like you put a Band-Aid on a broken bone.
Exactly.
Right. You might be getting more money or a slightly better title,
Right.
but the fundamental problems are still there.
The toxic boss is still toxic.
Yeah.
The company culture is still stifling. There's still a lack of growth opportunities.
And those things don't just magically disappear.
They rarely do.
Just because you got a raise, right?
Right. It's important to remember that.
So it's not just about the money then.
No, and you know what's interesting? Research has actually shown
Okay.
that money is not the main motivator for most people who leave their jobs.
So it's not always about chasing a bigger paycheck.
Not necessarily.
So if it's not the money, then what is it? What are the main reasons?
Well, it's often a combination of things.
Okay.
Work-life balance is a big one.
Makes sense.
People want to feel like they have time for their personal lives, their families, their hobbies.
Right.
Challenging work is another big one.
Okay.
People want to feel like they're using their skills. They're being stretched.
Yeah.
They're learning and growing.
They want to feel stimulated.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
And then, of course, feeling valued, having a supportive work environment,
Yeah.
opportunities for advancement, all of these things play a role.
So if money isn't always the driving force, what should people be considering when they're evaluating a counteroffer?
They need to ask themselves some tough questions.
Okay. Like
what will actually change if I stay? Will my boss suddenly become this amazing mentor who supports my growth?
Right.
Will the company culture magically transform into something that's more positive and inclusive?
Yeah, if the answer is no to those questions, then that counteroffer starts to look a lot less appealing.
Exactly.
And I think it's also important to remember, you now know your worth.
Right.
You've seen what other companies are willing to offer.
You've tested the market.
So will your current company actually recognize and respect that going forward? Or are they just going to revert back to their old ways once the dust settles?
That's a big risk.
It is, because even if they match or exceed that other offer you got, it's not just about the money at that point.
It's about so much more than that.
Right. It's about feeling valued.
Exactly.
It's about feeling respected. It's about having opportunities to grow.
And feel like you're part of something that you believe in.
And if you don't have that foundation, then even the biggest paycheck might not be enough.
It might feel good in the short term.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it's not going to lead to fulfillment.
It's like staying in a relationship that's no longer serving you.
Exactly.
Just because they promise to take out the trash more often.
Right. It's not about the superficial things.
Right.
It's about the deeper connection.
And the trust.
Exactly.
And speaking of trust, let's talk about the impact on your reputation.
Okay.
Because accepting a counteroffer can make you look like a bit of a flight risk.
Right. It's like you've shown them that you're willing to walk away.
Right.
So how do you think that might affect things going forward?
Well, I imagine it could impact future promotion opportunities.
It definitely could.
Right. They might think, well, they were almost out the door once. What's to stop them from doing it again?
Exactly.
So even if you're genuinely committed to staying after you accept the counteroffer, there might be this lingering doubt in their minds.
There could be.
And that could affect your career trajectory.
It could. They might hesitate to give you more responsibility or to trust you with important projects.
Right, because they're not sure if you're really in it for the long haul.
Exactly.
And that's got to be frustrating, right?
It can be.
Especially if you truly wanted to stay, but just felt undervalued before.
It's a tough situation.
And then there's the added risk that if the company needs to make cutbacks, you might be seen as more expendable.
Exactly.
Because you already tried to leave once.
It's almost like you get penalized.
Right.
For knowing your worth.
So even if you manage to negotiate a great counteroffer, there's still this underlying risk that it might not lead to the long-term happiness and satisfaction that you're really looking for.
You have to weigh the short-term gains against those potential long-term consequences.
Okay, so we've talked about all the reasons why accepting a counteroffer can be a risky move.
Yeah.
But let's flip the script for a moment. When might it actually make sense to consider staying?
Since you're new to H&R Block, we'll look at your returns from the last 3 years for any money your last guy might have missed for free.
I could get money back from last year?
You could. We'll find any mistakes.
Could have really used that 2 years ago when I dated that mistake for 5 months.
Don't leave money on the table. Switch to H&R Block and get a free Second Look review. Second Look is included at no additional cost with the purchase of tax preparation. Results vary. All tax situations are different. Fees apply if you have us file an amended return.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Well, as we touched upon earlier, there are a few specific scenarios where accepting a counteroffer could actually be a good move.
Let's hear 'em.
First, remember that situation we talked about where you weren't actively looking for a new job?
Right.
But this amazing opportunity just kind of fell into your lap.
Right.
And your current company, they get wind of it and they come to you proactively.
Okay.
They're not just reacting to your potential departure.
Okay.
They're actually coming to you and saying, hey, we know you might be tempted. We want to make sure you're happy.
Okay.
So here's some things we're willing to do.
So they're demonstrating that they value you before you even have to ask.
Right. They're not just trying to put out a fire.
Right.
They're actually trying to build something.
Okay, so that's a good sign.
It is. Another scenario is if they offer you a substantial promotion. And I'm not talking about a lateral move here.
Right.
This needs to be a real step up.
Yeah.
A significant increase in responsibility.
Okay.
Something that truly aligns
Right.
with your long-term career goals.
So it's not about them just trying to keep you in any role.
Exactly.
It's about them actually investing in your growth.
Right.
And helping you reach your full potential.
They're saying, we see your talent
Okay.
and we want to help you develop it.
Okay, that's a good one. What's the third scenario?
Let's say they offer you a leadership position
Okay.
in a major long-term initiative, something that's really critical
Right.
to the company's future success.
So they're basically saying, we can't do this without you.
Exactly.
You're that important to us.
They're recognizing your unique skills and contributions.
Okay, so in all of those cases, it sounds like the counteroffer is more than just a reaction.
It is.
It's a genuine sign of respect and appreciation.
Exactly.
And a commitment to your future at the company.
It's a sign that they see you as a partner in their success.
But even in those situations, right?
Right.
It's still important to proceed with caution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to carefully evaluate the offer, consider the potential downsides,
Right.
and most importantly,
Yeah.
trust your gut.
Because ultimately, it's your career and your happiness that are at stake.
And speaking of happiness, let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and talk about the other side of the equation,
Okay.
that new job offer that you've got.
Right, because sometimes that shiny new job might not be all it's cracked up to be.
That's true. It's important to remember that the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
So how do you avoid jumping from the frying pan into the fire?
Well, I think due diligence is key.
Okay.
Do your research, talk to people who work with the company,
Yeah.
ask tough questions about the culture, the workload, the opportunities for growth.
Really dig deep and look for any red flags.
If something feels off,
Yeah.
trust your instincts.
Right, because starting a new job only to realize that it's not a good fit,
Right.
that can be a huge setback.
Absolutely.
So it's a gamble either way,
Right. There's always an element of risk.
whether you stay or you go.
Exactly.
So what's the best way to make that decision?
Well, you need to weigh your options carefully. Think about your long-term goals.
Right.
And most importantly, make a decision
Yeah.
that feels right for you.
Not just financially, but also emotionally and professionally.
Exactly. It's about finding the right fit
Yeah.
for you, for your values, your goals, your overall well-being.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here today.
We have.
Talking about the risks and rewards of counteroffers.
Right.
And the importance of really thinking through your options before you make a decision.
It's a big decision.
It is. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you said earlier.
About, testing the waters and knowing your worth.
Yes. What about it?
Well, It seems like a lot of these counteroffer situations happen because people are feeling undervalued in their current roles.
Right.
And they only discover their true market value when they start looking elsewhere.
That's a great point.
So what if, instead of waiting for a counteroffer, you proactively communicated your career aspirations and your concerns with your current employer?
So instead of playing the leaving card,
Right.
you're suggesting that people take a more direct approach.
Exactly.
Okay.
Have open and honest conversations with your manager about your goals, your expectations,
Right.
any areas where you feel like you're not being fully utilized
Okay.
or compensated fairly.
That takes a lot of courage, though.
It does. It does.
Not everyone feels comfortable having those kinds of conversations.
Especially if they're worried about, potential repercussions.
But think about it this way. If your employer truly values you,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to want to keep you happy.
Right.
They're going to want to see you succeed.
They want you to feel fulfilled
Right.
and engaged.
And if they're not receptive to those conversations, that might be a red flag in itself.
It could be.
Right.
It might be a sign
Yeah.
that your values and your goals aren't really aligned with theirs.
And in that case,
Right.
it might be time to start looking elsewhere,
Exactly.
regardless of whether or not a counteroffer is on the table.
You have to prioritize your own growth and happiness.
So it's really about taking control of your career destiny, being proactive
Right.
rather than reactive.
And who knows, those conversations might lead to some really positive changes that you hadn't even considered before.
You might be able to create the ideal situation
Yes,
without ever having to walk away.
That's the dream.
It is. So instead of viewing a counteroffer as this simple yes or no decision,
Right.
think of it as an opportunity to reflect.
To reassess, to
Right.
have some important conversations.
And maybe even a chance to reshape your current role
Exactly.
into something that truly fulfills you.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
And remember, there's no right or wrong answer here.
Absolutely. Every situation is unique.
Every person's career path is different. So it's really about carefully considering your options and prioritizing your long-term goals.
Your long-term happiness
Right.
and fulfillment.
Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
I think so too.
And given our listeners a lot to think about when it comes to this tricky topic of counteroffers.
It's definitely a complex issue.
It is. It is. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
My pleasure.
We'll be back next time with more insights and advice to help you navigate your career journey.
Looking forward to it.
It's about taking that knowledge and that power and using it to create a better situation for yourself.
Whether it's at your current company
Right.
or somewhere new.
So if we were to distill everything we've talked about today into one key takeaway for our listeners who are maybe facing this counteroffer dilemma, what would it be?
I would say, don't let the allure of that counteroffer distract you from your ultimate goal,
Which is
long-term career satisfaction.
right.
That's what really matters at the end of the day.
Don't get caught up in the short-term excitement and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Exactly. Think about the long-term implications.
Right.
Think about your reputation, the trust dynamics. Ask yourself, does staying here really align with my values?
With my aspirations.
Where do I see myself in 5 years?
In 10 years.
Will this decision help me get there?
Right.
Or will it hold me back?
And even if you ultimately decide to decline the counteroffer, this whole experience can be incredibly valuable.
It can.
Right. It's a chance to really step back and reflect on what's important to you.
What are your non-negotiables?
Right. What are your priorities?
What kind of environment do you need to do your best work?
And who knows, it might even spark some important conversations with your current employer.
Exactly.
That could lead to some positive changes.
You might be able to create
Yeah.
that ideal situation
Right.
without ever having to leave.
So instead of seeing a counteroffer as a simple yes or no decision, think of it as an opportunity for growth.
For reflection.
Right.
For dialogue.
And maybe even a chance to reshape
Yeah.
your current role into something that truly fulfills you.
That's a great way to frame it.
And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all answer here.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Every situation is unique.
Every career path is different.
Right. What works for one person
Yeah.
might not work for another.
So trust your gut.
Trust your instincts.
Make a decision that feels right for you.
And don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
Excellent advice. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today,
I think so too.
given our listeners a lot to think about. So to our listeners, Thank you for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
We'll be back next time with more insights and advice to help you navigate your career journey.
See you then.
Until then, take care.
Bye, everyone.